Belt Delota. Thanks for stopping by. Today we have a channel update. Things are a little bit delayed considering our next 3 episodes, but I'm going to catch you up where we're at. Also going to catch you up with kind of going on with me, as well as some org updates. But I really want to talk about this. Oh my god, I did it right the first time. Let's start the show. Firstly, I want to thank everybody that helped make the new lore project a resounding success, in my mind anyway. This was no small labor of love, and it is one that's, I think, going to pay dividends, not just for myself as sort of a creative person, but hopefully this is going to be something that you guys can come to enjoy, and look forward to the penultimate conclusion. This is sort of more than dual purpose, and let's start with those purposes. First, it's meant to get you a little bit more familiar with the Star Citizen lore, and what our founding sort of impetus was. Now, many of you are familiar with the character in which we have based this organization off of. I think most of you have kind of picked up on the cue that, we are meant to embody who that person represents. And that is in our RSI page, sort of founding tenets and all of those kind of things. The one thing that really I found so likable about the Ghost Knife was not so much the larger-than-life personality, was the commitment to do better from a perspective of not being bound by your own personal constraints. Personal growth, overcoming your own nature was, I think, a really interesting thing for a person like myself. And I think most of us here, what I've come to learn from many of you is that we share very similar sort of ways of looking at the world. And I'm of the opinion that part of that is because of who that character is. We sort of have a little bit more of an understanding about who we are, who each of us is. And that, I think, in the seeking of a place like this, we communicate who we are as well, more than the individual. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I'm a kind of person that tries to do as much as I can whenever I can. And I see that in many of you. And I'd like to believe that most of us are here because we want to actualize a little bit of that change for ourselves, manifest it somewhere. And part of me truly believes that we all came here to start something. But I want to thank everybody here because you guys have given me a greater understanding of myself in the process. I don't want to get all sappy on this kind of stuff, but I see this being bigger than it ever was meant to be in so many ways, and I want to thank every one of you. All right, let's get into it. Hey, doing good? I really hope so. Now let's talk the next installments of the Lore Project. So we are dubbing this project and all things that sort of fall under its umbrella the Book of Callisto. Keeps things cohesive. It provides a good narrative sort of theme, especially with the first, let's call them chapters, establishing where to go from there. Consider this a choose your own adventure, or maybe a D&D character sheet. As many of you know, we have been trying to work towards, slowly, albeit, and admittedly, towards a roleplay evening, a static one every week or every other week, that allows players to come into, if they would like to opt in, to come into character and to step out of themselves a little bit more than they normally do. I know many people sort of soft roleplay now. It's just kind of a really natural thing after playing Star Citizen for a while, and you're in a group. It's an easy, effective way to communicate to the other players, and it sort of just comes naturally after a while. And if you're familiar with lore and things like that, of course, that participates. You know what I mean. Let's get going. The release schedule. This is sort of a Star Wars machete order kind of thing, but it's really was not intended to be that way. This is unintentional. As with most things I get my creative mitts on, they tend to blow up in proportion and scale and increase in size of burden. However, this is an incredibly fun one. I'm very passionate about. One that I think is going to pay dividends, like I said. So back to the jump off. When this is done, the first few chapters are established and the narrative scene is set. Go crazy. Go absolutely crazy. Take your D&D character sheet and make it your own. I want you guys to embrace the weird here. Because if you haven't noticed, Ghost Knife is pretty atypical. And I think that's why you're here. And I'm part and parcel to believe that we have so many of you here still because you want to be. So, go nuts with it. If you're shy, maybe start with a text page. Check out the roleplay tab. There's some really creative stuff there, and it may give you something of a starting point. Iterate on it if you're really shy. Make sure, like me, you gotta be a bit of a perfectionist and reiterate. But the more you do that, the more you're going to get out of your shell. And I think that's why we're in a social gaming space like Ghost Knife. Back to the machete order. The second episode released will be actually episode 1 chronologically, and then episode 3 through to its eventual climax and conclusion. I've really gone quite deep into Star Citizen lore with this. I'm going to warn everybody. However, things do resolve very nicely. I've been mired in Malazan Book of the Fallen, and of course James S.A. Corey's The Expanse for the last 4 or 5 years. So a lot of the prose is going to come out that way. It's basically how I think now. I absolutely, and if you're a fan of other kinds of fiction works like fantasy, I cannot recommend Malazan Book of the Fallen enough. Start in the release order, please. So the scope and scale is indicative of sort of a grand opera, I guess. There are elements that are going to harken back to the Messer era of Star Citizen lore, going back a couple of hundred years for the Taveran First Contact War. Or there's going to be characters that are... I really don't want to spoil it. There's going to be characters that are going to be complete curiosities, and that I think are going to tantalize you or encourage you to start checking things out in the verse a little bit more mindfully. Maybe if that's just even combing through the wiki. There will be mentions of crime syndicates that otherwise have not made actual appearances in the game. There's going to be a whole lot to really entice you to take a deeper look, and maybe to kind of treat your character sheet, so to speak, like a tapestry. Make it interesting. Because while we don't get to necessarily create our backstories here in the real world, we get to in the verse, and it's kind of like our namesake, Ghost Knife. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt, because you're here obviously to something spoke to you about him. And embrace that, run with it. Create your legend, create something larger than life, embody it in the verse. And maybe, the more that we embody that in our downtime, the time we're trying to unwind, maybe we can actualize a little bit more of that change in the real world. Call me ambitious, call me naive. I see it as a way that we can try and have fun in the process. Anyways, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening to me ramble. Expect some updates on those next episodes. And please, humor me. Humor yourself. Kick it around. Get out a piece of paper. See what you come up with. Take care. Boss Man loves you. And remember, the more you share, the more your bowl will be plentiful. See you in the verse.